Hello and welcome to the second episode of Guinness World Records Gamers Podcast. I'm your host Mike Plant, and with me is GWR's very own games records manager I should say, Luke Wakeham.
Hello.
Jack Turner, games journalist.
Hello.
And tech and games journalist Andy Laughlin.
Important distinction.
Thanks, guys. So this is the second episode, as I say, of the Guinness World Records Gamers Podcast. So if you want to check out the first episode first, it's on YouTube. You can also find it on Spotify, just the audio version. And by now, we should also be on iTunes, I do believe. If we're not, we will be soon. So we'll update you next week. Cool, we've got a really good show for you this time. We'll start with news from really good stories from Sony and Xbox this week. We'll have our On The Record section brought to you courtesy of Luke here, and we'll finish with our boss fight quiz. And somewhere along the way, we'll also have our listeners' letters, and we actually have a genuine listener letter for the first time. But to start the show, shall we talk about the games we've been playing? So I believe you've been catching them all in the old Pokémon.
I've been attempting to catch them all.
You mean you gave up?
No, I'm still progressing. I'm still progressing through it. Yes, I've been playing Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu.
Yeah, so you've bought Eevee, haven't you, Jack?
I've got it. I'm Team Eevee.
So,
okay.
Outside
our
now.
fisticuffs at dawn.
I think they're both viable Pokemon, aren't they?
Let me ask you, how did you decide which one to buy?
Well, I mean, we were talking last week about all the different evolutions of Eevee, and I really wanted to, delve into all those different evolutions. So I wanted to, have Pikachu to start with.
8 evolutions, right?
7. 8.
No, it was 8.
Because I don't think you can evolve your base Eevee.
It's true.
So you've just got an Eevee, and then you're going to have other Eevees running around.
I don't mind the base Eevee. And also, I think they shouldn't they be called Eeveelutions?
Eeveelutions.
Come on.
I like it. Mr. Trick there.
Nice. Nintendo, if you're watching.
That's weak.
But I mean, straight off the cuff, I think I've been playing it for only a couple of days because it only came out at the weekend. I do really quite like it at the moment. I was worried to begin with that it was going to be very much a dumbed down sort of game, just for kids and that's it. Mm-hmm. But I've actually found it very relaxing to just sort of sit back and play an RPG that isn't so like over the top with all its mechanics and intimidating with its story and systems and stuff like that. I'm just going out there playing some Pokemon. Fun. Good stuff.
So it's Pokemon Yellow, basically.
Yes, it's a sort of remake of Yellow, which itself was a kind of reimagining of Red and Blue.
Yeah, there's a bit of a weird history to it all, isn't there? So Red and Blue obviously came out at the same time, and then Nintendo realised that Pikachu, I guess, was super popular from the cartoon.
It was to tie in with the anime a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had Pikachu. It was a big icon. It's like, why is he not on the front of a game? Pop him on there. New game.
I've got to ask the question, do you use the Pokeball?
No, I didn't spring for the Pokeball. I mean, that's one aspect of the game I'm not amazingly in love with, is the motion control aspect. I find because the way I play it with my TV sort of at an angle, and I'm sat at an angle to the console, I don't know how it's supposed to detect, but sometimes I just throw it straight and the ball just flies off in one corner. I'm like, no, that's not where I put it. And especially if you're trying to get a Zubat that's just flapping around all over the place, you're just like, come back here.
It's just like being a real Pokemon trainer.
So when I said it was nice and relaxing, those bits are annoying.
Andy, you must be tempted now, surely.
Probably not. I don't really think about Zubats in my daily life. I don't know what half the things you just said were. I'm probably going to give this a hard no. I do like Pokeballs with some rice or noodles or something like that. That's a nice experience.
You've actually bought the one with the whole...
Yeah.
I
did splash it up with the Pokeball. It works. Like Luke said,
It works.
It does work. Like Luke says, it does seem a bit random at times trying to catch a Pokemon, but that kind of it captures that Pokemon Go experience of being convinced you slid your finger the right way and it going all over the place. But the Pokeball is a cool little thing. You can actually attach it to, you can sync it with Pokemon Go on your phone. And I went out the weekend, had it in my pocket. I was catching Pokemon.
The Pokemon?
Nice.
Yeah. You can catch Pokemon in Pokemon Go with the Pokeball.
Oh, this is new information. It's cool.
It glows green when there's a Pokemon nearby. You click the button and it has a attempt at catching it.
That is very cool, because there was a Pokeball accessory for Pokemon Go, wasn't there, for a while, but I never actually got a chance to test one out.
And what else is it? Oh, it also spins Pokestops automatically. You chumps out there doing it
spinning
manually.
Manual spinning.
Oh. So I took out, with the Pokeball...
That doesn't make any sense. Why does having the Pokeball make the things spin automatically?
Because you paid money.
Well,
and And I took out the Pokeball, put a Pokemon in it, and when we came back, it leveled like 20 levels. It's ridiculous. It's overpowered, if anything, but it's cool. And one thing I do like about Let's Go is it's probably the best looking Pokemon game, right?
Oh yeah.
I was going to say that it's the first time that I guess it's been Pokemon, a proper RPG of Pokemon's been put.
They
on
do make a
HD
bit of
system.
a big deal at the beginning. Like the intro screen is literally Pikachu or Eevee jumping out of a TV screen.
Oh.
You're like, oh, it's on a TV screen. As soon as I was done with that intro, I was like, actually, I want to play it in bed. And so I made it, I did it in handheld mode.
It's like, oh.
Yeah. But I mean, one of my favourite features of the game is that you can take a Pokemon out of its ball and have it follow you around. I mean, that, I know it doesn't serve any purpose because, well, occasionally the Pokemon will find like a nice item for you to pick up, but it's just so cool having like a Psyduck running around behind you going, ah!
But isn't there so in the old Pokemon Red and Blue, you had to say there was a bit of grass and you couldn't just get through it. You had to get a Pokemon to cut through it for you. Is that still part of the game?
So the secret techniques are still in there, and they kind of gates progression in that sense. But I suppose the biggest difference here is that whenever you are going through just like the normal Pokemon grass, for catching stuff, you can see all of the Pokemon running around in the world already. So there's no sort of like, I can just avoid them if I want to.
It's like what you used to imagine as a kid.
I know, exactly.
That's really cool.
That definitely makes a big difference because when I was a kid, I didn't mind random battles, but nowadays, come on,
I haven't got time for it.
I haven't got time for it. I'm a busy man. I'm going to town with a Pokeball in my pocket. Got stuff to do. So
spinning them. I don't have time for that.
But
how big is the Pokeball, and what pocket are you putting in?
How big is the Pokeball? I mean, I would say it's the size of slightly larger. Imagine like a big ping pong ball.
Oh, so
it's like an easy peasy peeler Satsuma.
Those Pokemon don't have
Right.
Exactly.
Pokemon don't have much space when they're in the Pokemon.
No,
do they?
they're pretty
It's not like a
small.
beach ball or anything, is it?
But no, it's not like a beach ball. That'd be insane.
Oh.
But I'm really enjoying it. I'm having a great time with it, and I think there's been some backlash from diehard Pokemoners.
I think the competitive element of it, because there is a whole Pokemon like festival or whatever where they all go and play the game. I don't think this game is a good one for competitiveness.
It's
maybe, and we'll see in the fullness of time.
I get the impression that a lot of people are just sort of taking this as the entry level Pokemon to get your kids involved type thing. Because everyone knows that there is a fully fledged Pokemon game coming, they're probably going to be saving all their energies for that.
Yeah,
it's just like, right, I'm not going to get too involved in the Let's Go scene. Because the new Pokemon game is going to come out and just rock everyone's world.
Yeah, which is supposed to be next year, I think, isn't it? If
maybe.
the logo was to, I don't think it's ever been officially announced yet.
Can we make sure that when it does come out, Andy plays all the way through?
Oh, well, of course,
yes, definitely.
Of course we will. Yeah.
Well, how much money have you got?
How many Pokemon can you name?
Pikachu.
Good.
We've named at least 4 since we started.
Sir Trevor McDonald. I don't know.
Not officially recognised as a Pokemon.
Snorlax, I know.
Hey.
He's a classic.
Oh.
That's it.
Fair enough. All right, a game that Andy will recognise, Fallout 76. In fact, myself and Andy last night playing together, playing up a storm.
We laid waste to the wasteland, didn't we?
We killed a lot of Scorched.
So we talked about this last week a little bit. Obviously, this is the first Fallout game that is fully online. It's a persistent world that you need to be online to play. Previous Fallout games have just been offline. You play an actual RPG story. So me and Mike basically are obviously friends on PS4. PSN, sorry. And we obviously, it's quite easy. You kind of find them in the world. It hooks and matches up relatively.
Was it easy? I seem to be waiting around a long time for you.
Oh, it's because I was downloading the patch. So we should say that there was a massive patch.
Which has improved things. I played it before the patch and after the patch. And after the patch, the enemies do have more animations, it feels like, or they're less like staccato in their movements. And
it's a bit smoother, yeah.
Admittedly, it then did crash halfway through us playing together, but then it did recover quite quickly, which is better than it has been, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think they still need to do a lot of work on the servers. It's still really temperamental. It seems to struggle with players, and you obviously get disconnections, and there's been quite a few stories of people setting lots of things up, and then the server dropping down and it going over. I think this game still has the Fallout feel. You're still very much wandering about the wasteland, discovering stuff, finding a weird location, exploring it, finding some awful, terrible things in there, dispatching them, getting a load of loot. It's much more about this one, about the kind of, I'd say the grind to a certain extent. It's much more RPG online almost MMO type thing,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, definitely.
You know, you go in there and you loot, grab, you kill enemies, you level up, you move forward, and actually the storyline is kind of, it's just a lead through. So if you were really, really into the storyline of Fallout games, this is not quite for you. But if you love MMOs and you like the Fallout world, then this maybe is a different thing. And I think a lot of people need to sort of look at it slightly differently. Because if you're looking for a traditional Fallout game, this is probably not going to.
I mean, it feels like Fallout. But,
It does,
but with then
yeah.
23 other people running around, but then you don't really see those 23 other people unless you really go out of your way, because the map's enormous. It's 4 times bigger or so than Fallout 4, which was enormous in itself.
I mean, they're off rambling, they're off like having Kendall mint cake, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
like, I've only come across, I've only played it, well, not as much as you, maybe about 5 or 6
Yeah.
hours now, and I've only seen, other than you, 2 other people.
Yeah.
One was level 20, so he wouldn't be seen dead with me at level 5. And then another person was...
not even in the make-believe world.
Oh, yeah.
Can you make friends?
Story of my life. And then the other guy was just spinning around. on the spot.
That's what this pirouette.
Because that's what you do.
But
He was at Pokegym, wasn't he?
just lobbing pokeballs. But we came into like sort of an old abandoned train station. This guy was just fighting off. He was in a quest. We just joined him in, and like nobody, he didn't like shoot us or anything like that. And we wandered on, and we met him again. And he's like, "Oh God, these guys."
I don't think he was doing our quest though, was he? He was just I don't know what he was. Although there was, so they have like if you play Destiny or a lot of those kinds of games, you get like a timed event that's happening, and it's random. I think they're generally located in similar areas, aren't they? But it's kind of a random event that's happening, and it can happen any time. And he helped us in one of those by basically killing every wave of. They're called the
Scorched, who look like they've been on the sunbed for a little bit too long. But I think if you look at it in terms of the destinies of the the kind of those kind of games, then it has that Fallout feel and it adds those in. If they can sort the servers out, they can add more additional content in there. So like it layers on with like additional bit like GTA 5.
Yeah.
Then it could be a really interesting thing going forward. I think there's a few bumps in the road at launch, which is not ideal for a quite expensive product, but it has got potential, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to diving back into it. Probably on my own at first, just to level up, because the trouble is when you were higher level than me, you had all these guns, were a lot more equipped, and I was just getting my ass whipped for everything.
I mean, I love just wandering about the world, just finding stuff in Fallout, just like going into a weird location where you go into the basement, there's a weird thing, some of it's kind of good, some of it's kind of really funny, and some of it's really odd and magnificent. And that's still that kind of magic of exploration, that you go and get power armor, you do this and that, the other.
And there's still all those terminals to find. They kind of reveal the lore slowly but surely to you, and you have to have the hacking skill to get into the more protected ones, and it's all that kind of stuff you love from Fallout games. But the plot is, like you say, it is very much, especially every bit of it I've done so far has just been this long-winded tutorial. Essentially, that's the plot. It's a tutorial at the moment, but hopefully it gets a little.
I think there's
more.
You have to also adjust the fact that there's no kind of characters as in previous games. So you don't really meet like a set of human settlers who engage with you. You hear it all through logs, and it's much more kind of like you're exploring a post-apocalypse in that sense, really, rather than kind of meeting the survivors there, because everyone else is just people. So the idea is that you'll meet, and it's a bit weird. Like we teamed up, and then you were listening to logs, and I could hear you listening to the logs, and I was like, I've already listened to that. So you almost kind of need to have to.
God, that's like when you're on the tube and someone's got a podcast on.
yeah.
That just sounds irritating.
Listen to
Can
Radio
you send
4.
that to the Guinness World Records Gamers podcast, please?
Oh,
mate?
yeah. But yeah, I'll play loads more of it. I've got Red Dead at the moment. I've sort of like juggling between the two, but I probably will play a bit more just to kind of get a feel for it.
We are a privileged bunch at the moment, aren't we? Because there are so many of these massive games out. There's Red Dead, there's this Fallout, there's Assassin's Creed Odyssey, there's but I don't know.
I still want to play Spider-Man as well. Like I've still not even thought about that.
Even Divinity Original Sin 2, I keep getting tempted because the price keeps going down. I'm just thinking, how am I going to put 100 hours into it? I know I'll love it, but how am I going to do that?
And I'm only 10 hours in Breath of the Wild as well.
Oh,
it's like, when am I going to finish these? Like, I've got to take like a month off just to play these games.
I think the solution is to play games that have a little bit more of a bite-sized nature to them, which is what you've been
good segue.
getting involved.
So, what a link! Wow, amazing.
It's never going to happen again.
No, that was it. Shut it down. I've been playing Hitman 2, which is the second game called Hitman 2. because it got
Oh yeah, of course it is.
very confusing.
That's the thing happening because God of War was also called God of War. This is a new thing.
So Hitman got rebooted in 2016. Actually, this is the 7th Hitman game in total, if you're keeping count. I know I am. Like to keep tabs on them. And
Agent 47, right? Still
he's not. Yeah, he's still Agent 47. Nothing's changed there. So in 2016, they rebooted the Hitman series. It was published by Square Enix, who I'm not sure if it did very well sales-wise. So they
did that slightly ambitious thing of episodically releasing it.
Yeah,
didn't they?
so the first season was episodic, and it released 6 episodes over a year, which was actually quite a good move, actually, because the thing about the Hitman games is they're effectively sandboxes, and they're so dense and packed with stuff to do. You could probably blast through a Hitman game in probably 4 or 5 hours if you just.
Well, I've not looked at the speedrun data, but I'm pretty sure it's done a lot faster than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I could probably do it in 4 or 5 hours. But the thing about it is you're missing out on a lot of content, and they stuffed the worlds full of all this rich content. And by releasing the first game episodically, it meant you were compelled to go back to it. And I think it was every 2 months the episodes came out.
That's the one. Well, that was a good thing they did. They actually kept to their. It felt like there was regularly new episodes coming out for it.
Well, Mike, those days are over. So now, Hitman 2, published by Warner Brothers this time round. Yep. They've ditched the episodic model, so you've got the whole smorgasbord of content laid out in front of you.
Wow.
Tasty.
It is very tasty. I tell you what, it is very tasty. I mean, we both loved the last Hitman game, didn't we?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's basically a puzzle game, isn't it? These Hitman games, you've got to work out through hearing conversations or following lines or like, kind of how you're going to basically put together the puzzle of how you're going to off this person. And there's some really good ones. What was the real highlight from the first game? Was the one? Is it Italy, I think. I can't remember its name. Sapienza. That was the best one. But they were all kind of really interesting and different. Do you want to go through like what you've played?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
We should also say as well that today they've announced that the Sean Bean.
I forgot. Right, see you guys later.
Which
I have seen the advert was just holding a rubber duck. Out of context, I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Sean Bean knows what that means. Really, but
the rubber duck is the one constant in the Hitman universe, the extended Hitman universe. But so actually, and those timed missions are only available for a couple of days. So yeah, when we finish this, I'm going to rush home and kill Sean Bean, which I'm looking forward to.
Local Sheffield hero.
So. There are 6 levels to play through, but like I say, they're so dense. I mean, some of them are they're all huge, apart from one of them. The first episode.
So describe the first level. What are you doing?
Well, the first level is not indicative of the rest of them. First, have you seen the film John Wick?
Yes.
Okay.
Great film.
Classic.
But
he shouldn't have took his dog.
He shouldn't have. Oh, they're ruining the day they mess with his dog. The first episode is almost John Wick-esque, and it's based in one set location. You have to get out of that location however you see fit, but it's just one building, so it's quite a small. It's quite a small little sandbox. But the other 5 levels are huge. So one of them is set in Mumbai. Obviously, city with filled with millions of people. In the game, it really does feel like a crowded city. There's literally thousands of people that you're walking past. There's another one set in a suburb in Vermont, which is interesting.
That one looks great.
Oh, it's so good.
That looks like Blood Money.
Yeah.
Is it Blood Money?
Yeah, in one of the fan favourite levels was in Blood Money, which was a little suburb where you had to kill, I think it was a sort of ex-mafia boss. And this is that times 100 basically. It's a great big suburb. It's amazing.
It looks awesome.
But the great thing about these games is there's so many things to do in them. Like Andy says, you walk around and these opportunities reveal themselves as to how you can off your targets. There's a couple of targets on each level, and you can spend 2 hours just walking around gathering intel, and it's not just one creative way of killing someone. There's literally like 10 for each target. And
I remember playing the last game, and you sort of can see all of the ways to finish a level if you look at the screen, and it almost put me off. It was so densely packed.
Well, obviously, for someone like you who is a completionist and wants to tick off every... So
it's not so much that, it's the fact that if I do it wrong, I have to restart the level. Let's not go down this
road. One of the things that the Hitman games are good at is you always start a level with the best intentions of being a super secret, stealthy assassin and going in like a ghost, no one knowing who you are. about halfway through, half the map's looking for you.
Yeah.
You're covered in
Good
blood.
sound.
You're panicking. But
Dressed as a chef for no reason.
Exactly, yeah. But the game's quite lenient, and if you can get yourself into these scrapes, but you can also get yourself out of them again quite easily. The point system the game works on, if you do a clean kill and no one sees you get loads of points, that unlocks gadgets and things. But you can still you could literally walk into the map, find your mark, shoot them, run off, and finish the game in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get any points for it, you wouldn't get many unlocks, but that is one way of playing it. But yeah, the games are very lenient, and if it goes south, you can quickly pull it back.
I suppose we should come to the fact that they didn't take our brilliant ideas that we put forward.
Yeah, I assume they're saving those for the Hitman
I hope
3.
so.
That's because no one listens to the ideas that you're screaming into your TV.
No, we published these ideas.
But,
It's great ideas.
So the game is effectively more of the same, and you could take that as a criticism if you wanted to. But for me, it's a plus because, like I say, Andy and I loved that last game. It was amazing, and this is just more of what we enjoyed so much. There's a few small quality of life changes. You can now hide in grass, which is pretty important.
The assassin's tool.
You need that. You need that in stealth.
We asked, they delivered.
You can also blend into crowds, a la Assassin's Creed. And also, if you own Season 1, you can bring those levels into Hitman 2. So that acts as a hub for all the content.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because they bought the rights to Hitman, didn't they? So I suppose they can get around that problem because it's no longer owned by Square Enix at all. So it's really good.
And those quality of life changes also apply retrospectively to Hitman 1 as well.
Oh, wow, so that's pretty
Pretty
impressive.
good.
There's a few. I feel there's a few cut corners. This is an amazing game. I just want to get it out there now. I'm having a whale of a time. But there's a few little niggles with me. So the cutscenes this time around aren't animated; they're just static pictures, which seems a bit strange.
They're not really cutscenes, are they?
Well, no, exactly, yeah. But it seems a bit of a strange choice. I don't know if it's a budget.
So like a comic book almost.
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
Well, that's fine.
But the last game had fully animated cutscenes, so that's
It's a stylistic change. It's a bit like Danganronpa. I like that in that.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other podcast for you. The training level
next week, guys.
I'm not in next week. The training level is the same as the first game, which I mean it worked, but
on the ship.
It's on the ship,
the
fake ship.
So.
That's an odd choice, isn't it? To put the same one back in.
And
no changes at all. Nothing different.
It gives you a bit more context, but the actual level is exactly the same. Yeah, and there's the odd glitch as well. So I've come across a couple of instances where I've gone to take someone out and they're floating 6 feet in the air, which is less than ideal. Yeah, exactly. So
David Blaine.
He'd be a good target actually, wouldn't he?
He would.
You'd never know where he was.
I'm not sure if they've announced who their other targets are, but it's pretty
I
fun.
would enjoy killing him over and over and over.
But anyway, so I'm having a whale of a time. It's brilliant. If you like the last game, you'll love this one too.
Shall we move on to the week's news? So it's been an interesting week in the gaming news. Obviously, we're getting towards Christmas now, so there's less and less big things going to be announced. However, Sony dropped this humdinger in this week. Humdinger, where they're not going to attend E3 2019 for the first time since that show has been going, which around 23 years.
Yeah.
So Nintendo have kind of pulled out of it and had a bit of a different way of going around it lately with their directs that they do. So whether Sony are going to do something like that. Sony itself said, so as the industry evolves, Sony Interactive Entertainment continues to look for inventive opportunities to engage the community. PlayStation fans mean the world to us, and we always want to innovate, think differently, and experiment with new ways to delight gamers. As a result, we've decided not to participate in E3 2019. We are exploring new and familiar ways to engage our community in 2019 and can't wait to share our plans with you. So whether that means they're going to just rack up in the car park next door to E3 and go, oh, hello, we've saved all the money on the booths.
I think what that means is we haven't got enough games to show in the show.
We're in an interesting point, aren't we? So there's obviously, they're skipping PlayStation Experience this year, which is their own show they've done for the last 2 years, I think I'm right in saying, maybe 3 years. They've only got, as it stands at the moment, Death Stranding, The Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima, and the one where it's like the Concrete Genie, is it called, and things like that.
Don't forget Dreams.
Dreams, of course. Yeah, who could forget Dreams? So yeah, like Andy said, they haven't got all that much.
No.
Well, in that they've announced at least. Of course, they're working on other things in the background, and there's a spectre of the PS5 dangling all over this, which they've not announced yet, but there's been a lot of comments saying, well, we see new hardware as important and all that, so obviously that's going to happen. So yeah, I suppose I can see the sense in him skipping a year, but only if all those games are then going to get almost shifted onto PS5, perhaps, which is possible.
I reckon they will. I think this is the last hurrah of the PS4. So they're running the generation down, I reckon. And actually, for them, they're probably not ready next year to do the PS5. They probably think they've got another good couple of years of solid sales. So for them, it's probably like they would go there. It would be like it's the same old stuff they've already shown. Then a really sort of weak back collection, and they probably looked at it and gone, "This is better if we just make a big statement like, we value gamers and we're looking for new ways to engage the community." Well, actually, they're thinking, wow, this is going to be a weak show, so let's not do it.
Well, they already kind of did that last year, where they just had the 4 games that they did in they kind of had people going from bit to bit, didn't they?
Yeah.
Throughout, which was a bit hard to follow. Didn't have the same impact as previous Sony shows, I don't think.
No,
so maybe they thought if we've
bang,
not got
bang.
if we've not got that, or we're not willing to share those games yet because we don't want to announce the PS5 yet, which is probably the biggest, most likely thing here. And then they can always do this thing where they say they want to delight their fans later in the year, where they could just suddenly drop a load of Last of Us 2 info or something like that. And I suppose they'll get a bigger bang for their buck for that particular one game then.
I suppose there's less chances of them getting lost in the noise of E3, because obviously, you have all the big name players there and they're all announcing stuff which gets covered, and there's only so many column inches. And if they do their own thing earlier or later on, then they'll have all the gaming press at that moment in time. Yeah. Although I get the impression that E3 is kind of winding down anyway. It seems like it's less populated year on year. So
the year I went, the first year I went, I think it was 2014, 15 maybe. It was when Pikmin 3 was announced, and that was Nintendo's last time that they had a proper stage show there. And since then they've done Nintendo Directs. Obviously Xbox has always engaged with it, but then last year didn't they take theirs outside of the show proper? I think EA certainly have done.
Yeah, but Microsoft have said they will do a show. Yeah, but they're playing catch up on there. They need this. They need to own the show. This is a good opportunity for them, really. Which I suppose Sony have taken a calculated risk.
It is odd, that, isn't it? Because actually Sony have allowed them to see the light back in here if they, thinking about it like in those ways. Not that Microsoft's anywhere near giving up on the console or anything.
Yeah.
But like, there's no disputing the fact that much as the Xbox 360 was dominant last time, the Xbox One is second fiddle to PS4 this time, and maybe by not going to E3 this time for Sony, it lets Xbox back in that way. And I don't know why they take that risk in a way. But.
Well, I think you're in a position of strength, aren't you? It's like, that you've got a new console generation coming. That you've got probably 3 or 4 absolute bankers for the last generation. So Last of Us 2 is going to be massive. Death Stranding will sell probably. And then you've got Ghost of Tsushima, which looks pretty good. And then a load of other bits and pieces. So I assume they're just taking a risk, because Microsoft is making these investments in the studios, but it's going to take a long time before that pipeline's refilled. They've really let it go to pasture, really, haven't they? And I think, I don't know what happened internally with them. There's probably a lot of bollocks. Well, it was
the guy who, I can't remember his name now, who announced the Xbox One and announced it as a TV box. Essentially, he was like sort of eventually ushered out, and then they brought Phil Spencer in. But I suppose it takes a while to correct the course, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's a real good opportunity for Microsoft. But I reckon Sony probably said, look, we can take a gamble here. We're in such a good position. We can actually say, let's not put out a kind of weak show at E3. Let's restock, get a really good strong end of the year, and then E3 2020 come out of the gate with the PS5. And then it turns out to be terrible for developers, and it all goes back again.
It's been a while since one company's managed to dominate 2 years in a row. Actually, it's been very much swinging and roundabouts. Just keeping with hardware and Xbox as well, that we've just been talking about. So there's a rumor on paulthrutt.com. He's generally a Windows insider. He'll spill the beans on things that Microsoft are doing with Windows. But he had an interesting bit of insight in the Xbox One, in that he was saying he thinks they're going to do a discless, I should say, Xbox One around the $200 mark, which probably, given the exchange rates, will be £200 or more. And the idea being, which is interesting, that you can take your games to a game shop on the high street and then trade them in for the code that you can then put onto your new discless Xbox, which would be a brand that's never really happened before that I can think of. I think once upon a time, when the Vita or the PSP or something went digital only, you could do that in Japan where you could get your game codes. That sort of rings a bell with me. But in terms of like a home console, I don't think that's ever come into, and especially I don't think in America or certainly in the UK that's ever happened before either.
What's the incentive to do it? Do you is the assumption that you'll have to pay a small fee or something? Because I can't work out why retailers would be encouraging you to dispatch with your physical games and go digital, because they're going to lose out in the long run, aren't they?
It could be a sort of PR thing, sort of goodwill towards Microsoft. Like they would probably reach out to all these different like outlets and say like, right, this is an exchange program through us. You just need to send us the games and we'll distribute you the codes. So I guess try and make it as easy as possible for the outlets to then they would potentially want to push this console as well. So don't buy this with all the games and everything. Like, here you go, here's a box, and then you just get all the digital codes. Isn't that nice?
But if I can see that meaning more footfall for the retailers, but obviously if this becomes the norm, people won't be buying physical games to trade them in the first place. So
obviously, you mean they'll just be buying through the store digitally?
I don't understand
like,
why
as
that
in
is
online.
Yeah, I don't know
But
what.
you look at like what Microsoft's business model, like you look at what is, this is going to sound dull, but what it's done with Office. You know, now Office is basically a subscription
Can
service.
you wake me up in about 5 minutes?
Well, I did say I was a tech and games journalist, right? So basically, Office is now a subscription service. So if you took that into gaming, you think if I'm in Microsoft, I've got a pretty amazing cloud computing network, as they keep going about. I've got all Azure, I've got all these systems in place. I can basically local host a game in the same way that I would local host Office with cloud saves and all that, and I can sell a box for cheap, which I can deliver games to really, really quickly. That starts to become like a pretty interesting business model, and like Google's looking at it, I think, as well. The Steam box is obviously a big thing. So there's a lot of players who are looking at that space, going like, okay, when broadband gets reliable, as it is in like places like Japan and Korea and stuff like that, in Western markets, that's when we're going to go with this, because basically this model is kind of pretty old-fashioned.
I could see them experimenting with it. I mean, the one thing I don't understand is $200 for a diskless Xbox. I'm pretty sure I could buy an Xbox for $200.
Yeah, that's
with a disc drive.
The price point is a weird one, isn't it? And it's who's buying this. Is it someone who's got an original Xbox and they want an Xbox which was like the large one that I've still got on my shelf at home, but then so you want to improve it and get an Xbox One S, but this is one without a disc. So is it people making that journey? But then you're kind of thinking, really though, if I was going to upgrade, it would only be for the Xbox One X, really, in that space.
But they've invested quite heavily in Game Pass, and that is actually a pretty decent offer these days.
Well, yeah.
You know, like, I mean, if you said like this is a Game Pass box, so in the same way that people sold internet TV boxes for like absolute nothing, basically just to pull you into a subscription. So all those gamers were like, I'm not paying 300 quid for a console, I'm not paying 50 quid for a disc, but I want to play games. This is kind of that's the market.
But 200 does seem a bit high for that.
Yeah, but he's probably not the final price point.
No,
right?
no,
like,
that's true.
The rumor's a rumor, but like he's probably just.
This is true. But yeah, I mean, it's been interesting to see what happens. Again, E3 come in, no Sony there. Will Xbox do some some big hardware announcements? Who knows? Final news slot. Let's get through this one quite quickly because we're running short of time for this section. But Black Mesa, which is basically a Half-Life fan project, which has been going since around 2004, I think, has just had the latest trailer of its Zen level announced, which is like the last bit of Half-Life. The rest of the game's been available for a while. This new bit's just been shown. They've kind of been creating it in stages because it's a fan project. What more can you do when you've got work? So the guy's making it called the Crowbar Collective. Half-Life, of course, on the 19th of November, was 20 years old. Can you imagine?
Blimey.
I remember being so excited when that game came out.
Jeez.
I'm so old.
Scared of head crabs.
Yeah, still am. So they announced they celebrated the 20-year anniversary of this really cool video that shows like how nice and spangly the Zen level's going to look, and they've actually expanded it. So it was always like a weak point of that game. It was always the most criticised bit of the game, but they've actually improved it. So they say they've made it a lot larger. It takes a lot longer to complete now. I'm really, it's really cool.
It looks really smart, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks amazing. Whenever I play Half-Life now, I always stop at Zen anyway. So it'll be interesting to see if they've made it a bit more compelling and a bit more interesting.
I just remember being a muddle of like launch pads and stuff, which would make you spring around the level. And it was never my favourite, but I must admit.
It's a really interesting project. I actually interviewed the team in 2009 who were behind it, but that's almost 10 years ago, which makes me feel really old. But it was basically started off as a group of basic modders, and then I think Gabe Newell at some point said, kind of, will someone make a really good Half-Life?
They gave it their blessing in the end.
Set it out, I mean, I think it was given sort of blessing rather than support or necessarily sort of backing, but it was definitely the blessing, and these guys have worked on it like, tirelessly, really. Kind of. I think a lot of them were, when I spoke to them, they were in different countries and different time zones and different parts of America and different all over the world. But they were like, some were doing the coding, some were doing the graphics, some were doing the actual upgrading, the rendering, all this kind of stuff. And it's it's pretty impressive to say that you've pulled together I think a pretty good version of that game, which is an absolute classic. And now it's kind of reaching that zenith point as you're reaching 20 years.
That was a Zen pun.
Oh yeah.
Unintentional Zen pun.
It's a shame that Valve itself can't pull its finger out and make Half-Life 3.
This is Half-Life 3. Half-Life 3, the prequel.
This is what we're getting.
I would love that the title screen just said Half-Life 3. There you go.
Oh my god, can you imagine?
That'd be the ultimate joke.
I think I'd probably have a heart attack. Just die happy.
Yeah, I mean, it does look really good. So it's going to come out in Q2, they say, of next year. So I suppose there's 6 months or so to wait at the most, hopefully. So it'd be amazing to see the end of that project. Like you say, started in 2004 and it's been going ever since in bits and bobs. It's quite incredible.
Good dedication.
Yeah, really good. So we've got a couple of listener letters, guys.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Waiting an age for the N64 Classic, this one's titled. In a recent interview with Kotaku, Nintendo's US President Reggie Fils-Aimé said that while an N64 Classic isn't something he'd rule out, it's not in our planning horizon, is how he... planning horizon. I checked that. Do you buy that, or do you think he's stalling ahead of an official confirmation?
Well, it's interesting. You've got the N64 behind you.
Yeah,
just
complete with its little...
with rumble pack,
memory expansion pack.
I mean, there's been stuff, well, not leaked, but there's been rumours about patents and stuff, isn't there? So there's something's happening somewhere.
There was loads of rumours that when they announced, was it the one of the Smash Ultimate announcements when they did a direct, and there was like suddenly the internet lit up with the with rumours that at the end of that they were going to say one other thing, there's going to be the N64, and obviously that never happened
because they thought Smash was going to be on it.
Yes,
well, it would be on it, and
exactly.
then linking in with that.
I think there's one big problem with this N64. Well, there's a couple of big problems. I mean, first of all, the back catalogue wasn't that deep. It had a good selection of games.
You could easily pull 20 or 30 games. I agree with you that it wasn't, like, in terms of like the number of games, it maybe wasn't as much as some other consoles, but the quality was high for the core.
But the bigger problem, I think, is the controllers. The controller is probably hard to recreate on a good price point these days.
I take you on that one, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very complicated
Trident.
I think they'd have to redesign it and put it out.
I think they have to,
and maybe they could sell the N64 variant, for an extra cost or something. I expect that's what they might look to do. But you really need. I don't think I can retrain myself to use the N64 controller.
No.
I mean, they could potentially work in somehow that your Switch controllers could work with it.
That would be brilliant.
Yeah,
it?
well, yeah.
I mean, I went into one of those games bar type things and they had GoldenEye up, and I was just like, wow, this is like learning Mandarin. I'm like, how do I play this game?
That's another issue, though, isn't it?
Well, that wouldn't be on it.
Yeah, that would be right.
Yeah.
I think they would have.
I don't know if that's tied up in various licensing issues.
So Perfect Dark, not.
No, because they had the Perfect Dark sequel
what I'm saying.
on Microsoft, didn't they?
I think they would struggle to fill, although they would have Ocarina of Time, which we'll come to later on. But I don't know. I don't know whether they would have that depth of quality. I mean, I've still got for that. Mission Impossible game, which actually is pretty terrible at the time.
Yeah,
there's quite a lot though. There's the Mario Kart says Conker's Bad Fur Day, or maybe
that's rare again.
I think I'm sure Nintendo.
Majora's Mask, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, the Wrecking. Is it
Smash? Just put and there's loads. I think. I mean, Jet Force Gemini. That was a classic. Was that rare again?
No. And then Wave Race 64 was really
Wave
good.
Race, yeah.
So I mean,
Blast Core.
Yeah. There is low. I mean, I think if you looked at it, there would be an absolute ton of games that
Well,
you'd
actually,
want to
maybe
play.
we can say out to people, can we put together, with help of listeners, the list of the 20 games that we worth having?
We
for
can.
the 64.
We can and we will.
We can and we will. I like it.
It's come at an interesting time, like, so the PS, the PlayStation 1 Micro, what's the official name?
Classic.
It's classic.
Sorry. Where
That
did they
went
get
down
that
like a
idea
lead
from?
balloon, didn't it?
Well, yeah,
Everyone
I
was
mean-
excited for it, and it's like, and here are the games. And everyone was like, oh.
Yeah.
And the controller with not
Yeah.
analog sticks. You're just like,
Yeah.
I want the analog sticks.
Yeah.
These guys.
But also, old 3D games age pretty badly compared to the sort of games you get on the SNES and NES. So I think that's going to be a problem when people get the PlayStation Classic into their hands.
Somehow in my head, N64 games have aged better, just because they tend to be more cartoony, and I think that look ages very slightly. But I'm talking about like Nintendo's main.
I will
crux
say
of
there
game.
is one PlayStation 1 game, Vagrant Story. Did anyone play
Yeah,
that?
it's excellent. Yeah, the RPG.
The actual, I played that again recently. The artwork on that is amazing, even though it's very much leaning into that sort of very jaggedy, polygonal type character model. Looks awesome.
Yeah.
Still, it kind of works for it. I would kind of say that the original Metal Gear Solid works. There's bits of it that look kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's got a kind of
because
iconic
it.
look, hasn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing,
The weird thing is with that Twin Snakes, which is like the redo, that still looks a bit rubbish
the
because it was done in a different.
GameCube,
So it was done like without the HD. My favorite PlayStation game was G Police, and that didn't make the cut. So
Oh
that
wow,
annoyed me.
G Police.
Yeah, I love that. Cool. Yeah. Our second question from Rage Oreo Jordan. So he says, "Do you have to go travelling a lot to see and approve records?" This is probably more directed at me and Luke than you guys, but feel free to chip in with some questions to us. But yeah, so what did we do recently? So we went to Paris Games Week, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
We got to hang around with Epic because they were doing a record attempt with Fortnite. You might as well fill us in, as you were the one who designed the record.
Oh yeah. So I mean, this was a emote dance routine,
Yep.
and it was quite, it was a mass participation event, and it was quite a thing to watch. It was very cool. I mean, I think we've got a couple of snippets on our Twitter.
Yeah, it's on Twitter. They put it on their Instagram, and yeah, so there's
They were all
plenty of
dressed
places
up
to
in
see
these
it,
big bear
Cuddle team leader.
pink like hoodies, and they're all doing these various different dance emotes.
It was really hard. I mean, there was
Yeah.
about 12 different dances. Like, I could not have made it through half of them. They must have been really hot by the end of it, because it was hot in that room as well.
Yeah, and
Could you-
they were moving.
Can you demonstrate some of the dances? Because
I can't.
Can you floss? Still haven't been able to do that. There was headbanging. There was the Carlton.
Yeah,
Wasn't
there
it?
was the hype.
The hype, yeah.
I can't remember the names of half the dances, but no, it was really impressive. We had like a dancer on stage who was like Epic's choreographer, basically,
Yeah,
isn't she?
yeah.
And she was like sort of cheerleading the rest of them to do it, basically, so they were all just copying what she was doing. And then behind her there was this big old screen. So it was done at actual Fortnite stand at Paris Games Week, so it was all pretty epic in pardon the pun, unintentional. But yeah, no, it was really impressive. So they had this big screen with the characters doing the dances as you were doing those dances and things like that. So yeah, it was like to be on the ground there, because I was like watching to make sure that they weren't doing anything out, the right moves and things like that. So we had to, like, if someone
Doris
wasn't,
Stewart.
if someone wasn't doing it, you had to say, no, you're out. Well, you didn't say that because that would have been harsh. We had to mark them off on a bit of paper to say we can't count that person, because they were just stood there shaking their head.
I can't believe it's got to the point in your life where you're judging other people for dancing.
Yeah, you're the worst.
Next up,
qualifier.
Strictly Come Dancing for me. I think I'll take over.
So what else have we done? We've been to Insomnia.
You say we. You've been to
that was me,
Insomnia.
yeah. Basically, we had a live stand there where we had a couple of like live gaming challenges people could try. We've done a couple of streams at London Comic Con.
I did
had a sort of gamer showdown.
I did a live talking to people thing.
You
That
did,
was fun.
yes.
Yeah.
A panel.
Panel?
Is that what that's called?
I'm really good at those, guys.
Live talk people.
Live talk people thing.
It's the richness of detail, though.
No, it was
It's
fun.
like I'm there.
We had the Batman suit with the most workable, like usable gadgets on it, which was really cool. It was actually from Batman Arkham Origins, which is a deep cut if you were to think of
Nice.
which Batman Arkham game you would take them from, really. But yeah, it's really impressive.
The one Rocksteady didn't do.
Yeah. And then And then so you did the same thing. We did our Gamers Showdown where people could they live stream trying to break records in. There was WWE.
So we had a WWE one, and we had a Fortnite record. Yep. The Fortnite one being fastest time to build a pyramid. Ooh. Out of 3 different materials.
Very impressive.
Challenging stuff.
And I mean, hopefully we'll be doing other things soon. So we'll tell you about that on our on this very show, I suppose. But yeah, it's not like we go out and approve records. It's not quite.
Well, we do. We basically like one of my aspects of my job is to sort of review lots of evidence. So we do lots of evidence review in-house. Yeah. But we do have an elite team of adjudicators that will go out and be the voice of authority on various different attempts as well. Yeah.
The G team, is it? Is that what they're called?
No. They're just adjudicators.
It's just a suggestion.
The G-Force.
Oh, G-Force, that's even better.
Don't upset Mike.
So the short answer is yes, we do go and do fun things, but only occasionally. But yeah, thanks very much. If you've got a listener letter you want to send to us to have as part of this show, then you can do exactly what Rage Oreo Jordan did, and that is to tweet at GWR Gamers. And actually, as Andy was saying, if you do want to send us your top 20 picks for N64 Classic, then please do, and we'll include them on an upcoming show too.
Let's make the case together.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get Reggie on the phone. We won't. No. We'll try.
We'll push him to the event horizon or whatever it was that he said.
So on the record is our next section 2, where we're going to talk about some of the records that we've been working on and dealing with this week. Very excited to say the first one here. Well done to Stallion83, aka Raymond Cox. So this chap is in the Gamers Edition 2019. He has just cracked 2 million points of his GamerScore on Xbox. So your Xbox GamerScore is generated whenever you get an achievement or anything like that, and you get 10 points, 15 points. I can't quite remember exactly what it is. This guy, 2 million points. So it's tracked by a website called trueachievements.com, and they list the top however many hundreds of people who have this. And Stallion83, first person to reach this milestone. He already holds the record for the highest Xbox GamerScore. He also had the first person to get to 1 million. So yeah, it's really impressive. So he's been live streaming. He live streamed his rise to 2 million, if you will, on his Twitch TV channel. So that's at Stallion83 if you want to check that out and watch it happen.
What does he play mostly?
Well, I asked him a few questions. So he plays basically everything.
You have to play everything.
Yeah.
Right.
So I asked him a few questions. Like I asked him what game he was going to choose for his 1 million, his 2 million points mark, and why. So he was saying, he said he's been searching for a proper achievement title for weeks, and he couldn't find anything. But then Halo is his favourite franchise, so he realised he'd not done like the Halo collection, so he could still go back and replay those, and they count as extra points. So he can use that game to get his score up that way to 2 million, which is really cool. I asked him if Xbox has been in touch, and he said, yep, they have. He said, so for my 1 million milestone, they gave me a special controller, and now they're giving me a 2 million milestone controller to use. He says, I use them once for the achievement, once I get to the milestone, and then I never use them again. I just display them. So it's got sort of... what's the word, engraved onto it, 1 million, and the next one's got 2 million.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
it's locked away.
Yeah, locked away. Really cool little
quick.
collectible. Yeah, absolutely. Priceless to him, I suppose. So I asked him, what's next? 3 million, obviously. Bearing in mind it has taken him, I think, 13 years. Oof. So he says, this I don't know. 2 million has taken it 13 years. I got my first achievement on November the 22nd, 2005. So I'll be doing 2 million almost 13 years to the day, which is pretty incredible. He says, I'll always love video games and achievements, and I'll always be playing them and going for them. So I guess you can read into that maybe he is married, I think. So
Yeah.
I think
To his Xbox, or
His partner said no, no more.
And I asked him what he's looking forward to playing that he's not had time to yet, either from this year or next year. So he says there are still a ton of games I've not had a chance to get through, which is amazing considering how many games he does play. He says, I need to play more Red Dead and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. There's new Forza Horizon 4 DLC coming in December, as well as Just Cause 4, Gears 5, Crackdown 3, Metro Exodus, Ori Will of the Wisps. So even though he's reached this point, he's still wanting to go and do all those games, which I guess he would do because they're all going to be pretty damn good, I'd have thought, when they come out. And then I asked him for his favourite game of 2018 so far, because I guess at some point we're going to have to work that out for ourselves.
Yeah.
But his picks so far, Red Dead Redemption 2 or Forza Horizon 4, he said. So there you go. But yeah, incredible, really. I mean, there's a different interview with him in the book. I don't know what I'm gesturing for. It's the book.
Is he over there?
Oh, it's behind me. There you go, the book.
Bring him in.
And we even dressed him up as Master Chief. So there you go.
Nice.
Because, why would you not?
He does look epic in that.
He does,
scene.
yeah. He looks really,
standing on the
really
edge of
good.
a cliff in the power armor or whatever it's called.
I think I know the picture.
The Spartan
Yeah,
armor.
Spartan armor, yeah. So well done, Ray. That is truly a remarkable
That is
achievement.
very good, isn't it? Yeah, that is both brilliant.
And then I thought we'd have a little bit of fun looking at Pokemon.
Yeah, I've got a couple
Yeah,
records.
so
I
these-
might
these are
eliminate one of them and just
A few records from Pokemon just to celebrate the launch of Let's Go Pokemon.
So the first one is a fastest any % glitchless completion of Pokemon Yellow. So first up, according to howtobeat.com, or How Long to Beat, sorry, the average completion time of Pokemon Yellow Special Pikachu Edition is 27 hours and 21
So
minutes.
we should point out this was from our original book. So
Yes,
yeah, this was from the 13 years ago when we did, same time that Ray Cox was starting out in his thing.
Oh yeah.
What a coincidence.
Yeah.
So we had our Pokemon Yellow record, a speedrun record, which at the time we were getting from, sorry, what was the name of the...
Well, no, that was the build-up to it. I was basically saying, like, it takes on average about 27 hours and 21 minutes.
Okay.
Can you guess the speed run? Like,
So this is on speedrun.com.
This is on
now.
speedrun.com,
the modern
yeah.
speedrun.
This is glitchless, right? You said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're just playing the game as quickly as you possibly can.
This is like boss fight. You can't.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's why I wanted a piece of that pie as well.
Okay.
so.
I am going to say, this is a complete stab in the dark. I'm going to say 1 hour, 30 minutes.
What, from 27 hours?
But these guys are good.
Mm.
I was going to say like 18 hours. I'll go a bit higher. Let's say 4.5 hours.
So according to speedrun.com, the fastest any % glitchless completion of Pokemon Yellow is 1 hour, 54 minutes and 1 second.
Wow.
And was achieved by Gunnermaniac.
Arsenal
From the
fan.
USA. On the 8th of June 2018.
Cool. That is an amazing amount of time to shave off in what? How many years between the two things?
Many.
Yeah, it's pretty good. We've got time for one more, I think.
One more.
We've gotta go.
I think I'm going to go with, again, another one from the very first edition of the Guinness World Records, the Gamers Edition. Is the youngest supermarket consultant. So basically on the
Obviously, supermarket sweep.
So on the 15th of April 2000, supermarket chain Tesco's announced that it had procured the services of 7-year-old Laurie Slater from Hertfordshire, UK, to advise senior executives on the Pokemon craze that was sweeping the nation. Basically, Laurie, who was 7 years old back in 2000, was spotted by store managers explaining the intricacies of the Japanese characters to customers.
Wow.
Laurie was then whisked off to bring his expert knowledge to bear to Tesco's baffled marketing executives.
So,
Just
Laurie,
imagine that in the boardroom.
Laurie, if you're watching, please get in touch.
I'm glad that Hertfordshire, my home county, is so well represented, and that's how we spend our time. That's just the daily event.
That is really cool. I mean, imagine being a 7-year-old and then told to go and talk to
Tesco executives who clearly have never heard of Google.
Well, it wouldn't have been invented barely back then.
What was
What is a Pokemon?
what was the year again?
2000.
Oh, no, yeah, it would have been.
It would have been invented.
All right, really cool. So, all right, should we do it, guys? Should we do boss fight?
Yes.
So last week we won, didn't we?
Last week you did win.
Oh,
This is
just to a
just
stretch
for
us.
anyone who didn't see last
to
week's
back.
show. So, boss fight is our weekly quiz we'll be doing. Multiple choice for 4 answers to every question. There's 5 questions. You guys do get lifelines. However, slightly vetoing one of them. It was too easy last week. So the lifelines are, of course, based around Super Mario Brothers games, and you get a Fireflower which can burn 2 of the answers away.
Yep.
You get a mushroom that means you get an extra bite at that question. Imagine being shrunken down if you get it wrong. If you get hit again, you're out.
I would imagine it.
And you get an invincibility star, but you can only use it for the first 3 questions.
Oh.
Okay, I'm not letting you win an Invincible. No
Yeah.
chance.
All right.
All right.
Well, that's pretty harsh.
The reason being because last week it got quite down to the wire and you still had too many lifelines left, and I'm the quizmaster and I can make it harder.
Well, that just sounds like cheating to me. But
the cool thing, so Zelda Ocarina of Time, 20 years, young this week. So it came out on the 21st of November 1998 in Japan. And then 2 days followed in America, and then we had to wait until the 11th of December 1998. Can you imagine? The whole month.
I can remember
with no
buying
Zelda.
it.
Yeah, I mean,
is
what a game.
Sad.
Came with a gold cartridge, didn't
Oh, it did,
Whoa.
yeah.
Now we're talking.
I've played through it twice, which is quite unusual for me because I never bother playing it again.
So, shall we get on with the
Yep.
quiz? So this week we decided that Luke, you can't be involved in this. It's just these guys. You do know too much about these records. You do kind of write something.
He's the games master.
So
I'm the
you
games
know,
master, yeah.
last week I was very tricky last week, and I chose some that I knew Luke probably wouldn't know because I added those. But now I'm afraid you're out. So let's keep our distance.
Oh,
No, I'm joking.
Right, well.
So
Challenge accepted.
question one. Epona Link's horse famously made her debut in Ocarina of Time, but what is the name of the ranch from where she can be obtained? Is it A, and bearing in mind I've made this easy to start off with.
Okay.
Is it A, Bon Bon Ranch, B, Don Don Ranch, C, Lon Lon Ranch, or D, Ton Ton Ranch?
I mean, they're all quite similar, aren't they? When you said you'd made it easy, I thought that...
Andy did just say you'd played the game twice.
Yeah, come on, you played it twice.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago. I think it might be long.
That was my gut as well. That was what I was
I think
thinking.
it
So,
might be.
yeah. Should we just go with it?
Yeah.
You're right. Well done.
Right.
Well done, memories.
Oh,
Memory.
no.
Luke, do you have some super facts?
Just a little sneaky fact. Did you know you could find Lon Lon Ranch in Breath of the Wild?
Oh, that's interesting.
Basically, near Hyrule Field Tower, you have to find a place called Ranch Ruins, and it's a really dilapidated, broken down, sort of empty space because of the setting of Breath of the Wild is a kind of ruined wasteland.
The
almost,
Zelda
but-
timeline. Let's not get into that. That's another
Oh,
show.
no,
That's another show.
yeah.
All right, question 2. Well done.
Great.
Lifelines intact.
Oh, yeah.
Power ups, I should say, intact.
Feels good.
Ocarina of Time has the most speedruns
Correct.
on speedrun.com of any Zelda title with 5,147 runs.
Wow. That's
But
serious.
what Zelda game is the next most speedrun game? Is it A, Breath of the Wild, B, A Link to the Past, C, the original Legend of Zelda on the NES, or D, Link's Awakening on the Game Boy?
Well, the thing about Breath of the Wild is you can run straight to Ganon's castle, can't you, and take out Ganon.
Yes.
From the start, can't
But
you?
it's also the most recent game.
Yeah.
So people have only been playing it for a couple of years.
Smooth logic.
But people, it's a couple of
Why are you
years.
arguing with me? It's obviously not Breath of the Wild. Okay. Well, look.
I don't know what happened to teamwork.
There's no. It's like us playing Fallout.
Yeah.
So, well, we can...
Can you do name the options again, please?
Yep. So A, Breath of the Wild, Switch, Wii U. B, A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo. C, Legend of Zelda NES. Or D, A Link's Awakening on the good old Game Boy.
Wow, that's a tricky one, isn't it?
No pressure, guys.
No, I think...
Should we
got
do
loads
a
of time.
lifeline?
Yeah, well, yes, yeah. I'm not going to say what I think it is. But yeah, let's
What we're going to do with Fireflower.
Good tactics.
Yeah.
I tell you what, to keep things fair, Luke can destroy the 2. So which
Okay.
ones are left?
Which ones am I going to destroy?
These ones.
I will destroy the original Legend of Zelda
Yep.
and Breath of the Wild.
Okay, so you're left with.
Oh, so I was right about
A
that,
Link
I
to the
think.
Past and Link's Awakening.
I think Link's Awakening is a shorter game.
Yeah.
So that might compel people to run through it. But Link's to the Past is massively popular. And
It's a
secret
more
best
popular
Zelda
game, for definite.
Should we just say Link's to the Past?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Link to the Past, please.
Correct, Amundo.
Yeah.
With a whopping 3,941 runs. Interestingly, Link's Awakening on the Game Boy only 166. But then he does have the DX version, which has another
Okay.
951.
So I'm in with a shot on that one. What are you laughing
Someone's
at?
got it.
Well, I was going to ask you what do you think the speedrun for that was? A Link to the Past. So the average time to
Okay.
beat is 15 hours and 25 minutes. What do you think is the speedrun? top of the table.
2 hours 15 minutes.
Well, I'll go with that.
Yeah, so
Just say higher or lower.
1 hour and 23 minutes 10
Whoa.
seconds from
Jack.
Zelna from Quebec.
I think it took
Wow.
me that long to realise you could knock the curtains open with his sword when you get to a certain point. Anyway, I digress. Question 3. Ocarina of Time is the most critically acclaimed Zelda game of all time with an average review score of 97.54%. But what is the lowest rated Zelda game?
Oh, interesting.
Okay, here we go.
This is according to Game Rankings, I should point out, and it's only games which
Wind
have 20 or more average reviews on average, so it gets worked out that way. So A, is it The Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks for the DS from 2009, The Legend of Zelda Four Swords Adventures for the GameCube from 2004, The Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes for 3DS, came out in 2005, or The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass for the DS from
It's gonna be Triforce
2007.
Heroes.
My gut instinct was Spirit Tracks before I'd even read the answers out. But then he put in Triforce Heroes.
I know. It's a pretty ropey one.
Well,
That was the one. Oh no, it's not High. It's not Hyrule Warriors. The one that was like.
No, so this is main series Zelda.
It's-
so
That's
that
kind of a
wasn't- yeah, that
Dynasty
wasn't-
can we, I
Warriors.
think we're going to have to use one of our special powers.
Yeah. Should we use if it's should we use a power up so we can guess it?
Hang
go
on a
wrong?
minute, this is our last chance to use an invincibility.
Oh, yeah,
isn't it?
well, we'll go invincibility stuff.
Okay, well, I mean, you have a free guess essentially. We can
We
propel you onto
probably would have
question.
gone Triforce Heroes.
It would have been Triforce.
Whoa,
Heroes.
nice.
Collect.
Whoa.
Have you got a?
So yeah,
Factoid.
my because you basically the average score is 72.01%.
Which is still not that bad.
It's
you know
not
what I mean?
bad. It's
And it's still won the E3 2015 Game Critics Award.
must have been a pretty slow year.
Okay, cool. Question 4. So you've only got what your mushroom left.
Mushroom left,
Mm,
yeah.
Which means you get
So we need-
two shots at that question when you
All right.
deploy it. So to the nearest minute, how long was the fastest completion of Ocarina of Time achieved in? Was it 7 minutes, 17 minutes, 27 minutes, or 37 minutes?
Now then, question for you. Does this include glitch runs, or is it just
No, so this is glitchless. Yeah.
glitchless?
So
Actually, that I should probably check that. But
I think it is glitched.
is it glitch?
yeah,
Let me just double check.
because that would be ridiculous.
You guys can talk amongst
Because I
yourselves.
know that there is
Barely
a.
get through the intro.
If you use a glitch as an exploit, we can go straight to Ganon's castle
Yeah.
to the final fight.
Could you list the options again, please, Quizmaster?
Go on, Luke. You do it while I look this
I
up.
haven't got it on my
Alright,
paper.
Well, should we use our mushroom anyway? Because we don't know the answer.
Yeah, so to the nearest minute, how long was the fastest completion of Ocarina of Time achieved in? So it's either 7 minutes, 17 minutes, 27 minutes, or 37 minutes.
I don't think it could be 7 minutes. That's nuts.
Well,
Because you to run through the whole sequence with Ganon, it's at least 7 minutes. Then you have to get there. You've got to kill the dude,
No,
right?
so it's any percent basically. So it's it just
I
means
reckon
you just have to have
it's
beaten the game.
27
Basically.
okay. You reckon it's what, sorry?
27 minutes.
Well, should we use our mushroom?
Yes.
Mushroom, please.
I'm afraid to say that was wrong. So you do get one more bite at the cherry.
So it's 17 minutes or 30.
7. So what's left is 7, 17, or
I
37.
reckon 17 in that case.
Yeah.
Look at his face. Is he giving anything away?
No, he just looks miserable.
Ah, thanks.
That doesn't help us.
No. Really doesn't help us.
Should we go 17?
Yeah.
17, please.
Correct. Well then,
Oh.
gets through to the last level. Very good.
So the
okay.
record holder is Torge
Torji or Torj. Yeah.
of Norway.
That's his gamer name anyway.
Yeah. Who took 17 minutes 4 seconds on the 5th of September 2018, playing the Japanese Wii Virtual Console version.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that's. Maybe it just runs slightly faster or something, but that is the choice, it seems, for speedrunners to use the Japanese version.
That's because there's less
took me about
characters
2
in
months.
Yeah, maybe. It's something to do with like zipping through
Yeah.
the things. That's actually a good, very good guess. I mentioned that's right.
Cheers, mate.
All right, question 5. Yeah, well done. Princess Zelda is rarely. This is a doozy, by the way, unless you know it. Princess Zelda is rarely featured as a playable character, and yet she has been. Which was the first game to allow players to control the heroine of the Zelda franchise? Was it A, the Minish Cap, B, the Wand of Gamelon, C, the Faces of Evil, or D, Link's crossbow training?
Right, so 2 of those are Philips CDI games, which is not on. Putting those in there.
That's done.
What was the first one?
The Minish Cap.
I don't. It's. I think it's one of the CDI ones.
Yeah.
Look at his little face. He's loving this.
yeah.
I'm really hoping you get it wrong.
Wand of Gamelon or Faces of what?
The Wand of Gamelon or the Faces of Evil. Like Andy's face over there. The
No,
face
my
of
face
evil.
is pure love and happiness.
I mean, what would you say if you were in a situation like this, which we are?
I'd say Mike's done this. I'd say Mike's done this on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute. Let's think. That's logically.
Can we have the options again, please?
The Wand of Gamelon. Who would use a wand? A princess.
Why?
Well, she doesn't have a face of
It's
evil.
not Harry Potter. It's a different franchise.
The Minish Cap, the Wand of Gamelon, the Faces of Evil, or Link's crossbow.
Minish
training.
Cap's like a mushroom, isn't it, or something like that?
No, it's a
You
hat.
wear a hat that makes you
No, but
teeny
like
tiny.
a cap mushroom thing.
No, it looks like a duck.
Looks like a duck.
I would. Well, what would you say? Of the ones you've remembered, I would say.
I love your
Come on, let's
tactic.
bring
What
this
are you
home.
trying to find out?
Let's bring this home.
Okay,
You don't want to guess
No, I
yourself.
think-
Go on.
Read them out again.
No.
Oh, God.
A, B, C, or D. Pick
Minish
a
Cat, Wand of Gamelon, Faces of Evil, crossbow training.
I think. Well, it's not crossbow training, I don't think. Well, actually, no, it could be crossbow
Here we
training.
go.
Yeah, because wait a minute, because that would be suggestion you could play.
I'm sorry I asked.
We're going to be here for ages.
I think let's go crossbow training.
Okay, we'll go crossbow training.
Psych. It was the Wand of Gamelon. You taught yourselves out of the answer.
Next week, can I be on my own team?
Oh,
It'll
come
take
on.
twice as long.
Well, you didn't know Gammon and Pineapple either, did you?
I said
So I do have a little blurb here from the game, well not from the game itself, but the game stems from the Nintendo Sony deal of the two companies to release a CD-ROM based console. It never came to pass, hence the
Yeah, so it's why the
2.
PlayStation. Well, it's why the PlayStation came about because that deal fell apart, obviously, famously.
But as part of the abandonment of the agreement, Nintendo allowed Sony to use its Zelda characters. Sony farmed them out to Philips, and the result was the side-scrolling adventure for the Philips CDI, where Zelda journeys to rescue Link. And I have one final little note here from Mike, and it just says, apparently awful.
Yeah.
It does not
Do you know
review
that
well.
rings a bell actually? No, because there was another quiz was like, when do you do the other way around? When are you Zelda going to rescue Link? I couldn't remember.
There's
the
also
answer either.
Super Princess Peach, where Peach goes and rescues Mario.
That's true. Yeah,
Awesome.
that's
Nice.
a good pub quiz.
Cool. So that is the end of our show. I'm glad to say you got the quiz wrong. It's 1-1.
Glad to say.
It's a competition. Next week, all the answers are just numbers.
Cool.
What number am I thinking? So thanks for watching, I should say, everybody, or listening if you're listening to the podcast version. As I said at the top, we are on Spotify now. You can check us out on YouTube, of course, and we will also be very soon, I hope, on iTunes. So you can Google Guinness World Records Gamers Podcast, and I'm sure you'll find us in whatever format you wish. Thanks for listening. I have been Mike Plant at Mike Plant GC. Luke, you don't have a Twitter. Is it?
Still don't have a Twitter, no.
Jack, you are at QRC Jack, yeah.
Luke can have my Twitter if you want. I don't like it.
And Andy, you're at Media Scribbles, right?
Media Scribbles.
Cool. And just say you can also write into the show at GWR Gamers. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.